Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Bill Hartzer podcast for Thursday, December 12th, 2019. I have the pleasure of speaking today with Michelle Stinson Ross about social media and influencer marketing. Welcome, Michelle, to today's episode of Bill's podcast. And tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing social media and influencer marketing and so forth, and a little bit about your background.
Thank you for having me, Bill. So to run real quickly around my background, I started in digital marketing about 10 years ago as a social media user and content writer. Over the years, obviously, the social media channels have changed. They've grown, they've morphed, and my skill set has grown right along with them. So I may have started out as an organic community manager, but as the ad platforms have changed and matured, I've changed and matured right along with them.
Great. So what actually is, I remember, let's talk a little bit about social media and how it's changed over the years. I mean, I know that, when I would create content and a blog post or an article or a video or something, then, I'm actually, I remember the days where I would be pretty active, I could say, on the bookmarking sites, the social bookmarking, and so the only these are the days of Dig and Delicious, and then we had Mix, and then we ended up Google Plus and so forth, obviously, and then Twitter and Facebook, but how has social changed? I guess from the, do you really concentrate on, there's I guess a few, and I guess Pinterest is probably still kind of a social bookmarking type of platform. What has changed over the years?
A lot's changed over the years. And I'm glad you circled back around to the social bookmarking sites, because when you think about it, 10 plus years ago. So I started in social media in like late 2006 and into 2007. So by the time I joined Facebook had just launched their publicly available. So when Facebook started, the only way you could be a member was if you had a .edu email address. Well, in 2007, they lifted that restriction, and anybody could join with any email what they had. So I had joined Twitter maybe a few months prior to when they made that change at Facebook. And then as soon as I could join Facebook, I joined that one as well. Prior to all of that, I had actually been on MySpace in late 2006. So, to even mention MySpace is an indicator of how much social media has changed, because that one just basically doesn't exist at all anymore. But going back to the example of about 2007, Twitter was the only thing that had any kind of live or real-time interaction. Facebook certainly didn't have it. Facebook doesn't look anything like it did back in 2007. And honestly, when I first started, you could only have one type of account. You could have a profile. And so we saw a lot of businesses adopting really early and creating what were basically personal profiles for their businesses. Well, as things changed, Facebook said, well, let's let people be people and let's let companies be companies. And so we want you to sign up for different types of accounts. So the next phase of that was that they launched business pages. Still all organic. There wasn't any advertising yet available, but you could at least make a distinction between whether you are a person or whether you are a business. And at that particular time, anything that you posted organically, because again, the communities were really small, these were really, really new, it was really easy to get visibility organically, so long as you didn't act like something really trashy and gross, you're probably going to do all right organically. Obviously, all of these channels at some point decided, okay, we can't just offer this stuff for free. We need to monetize somehow. Oh, let's monetize the user base, right? advertising rolled out. And as soon as that aspect of it came into play, we were able to really start putting the right content in front of the right person. We could match somebody's interest in topics and things, whether or not they liked our page, and still get to see our content. As the years have changed, the types of content and the placement of those content has continued to change. There are more options, say, in Facebook now than there were 5 or 6 years ago. You have video options that you did not have when these sites first launched. It's like, if you think about it, just the ability to live stream video from a mobile device just wasn't possible when these sites first launched in 2007. Just not even a possibility. So yeah, a lot has changed, and honestly, for the most part, I would say that for businesses and for marketers, a lot has changed for the better.
Yes, exactly. I still come across a business that actually is using as a Facebook personal account, where they've used, they've kind of hacked up the name a little bit and with a first and last name. There's still a few floating out there that I've liked, and I think it's, well over 10 years that I've liked that account or so forth. I think the next step, I guess, here is the problem that a lot of businesses face is actually just growing on social media. You with making a post and just putting it on Facebook, and kind of, you're kind of limited to somebody just actually, whether or not they share it. And so you're going to get just limited visibility, even with a Facebook, business page, that you share new content, or, share something about a new product or a new service, or, whatever post you make, you're kind of limited to whether, the people who have already, your current customer base, or your people who have actually already liked the page. And, that is kind of can be limiting. And so that's where, I guess, it sounds, to me like, the only outside visibility you can get is by advertising, by either boosting posts or on Facebook, or actually just, or creating audiences and actually advertising.
Right. So for advertising, I would say try it. Don't be afraid of it. You can do things relatively inexpensively. So just as an example, I happen to, when I'm not doing marketing for other people, I happen to enjoy writing fiction. And I just recently launched a very, very small scale little video campaign. I swear to you guys, I am only spending $2 a day. That was the budget that I set for this. $2 a day. So don't think that even if you're a small local business, you can't afford to do this. Absolutely you can. Surely your business can afford $2 a day to promote a little video about yourself. Now, the video that I'm using, I recorded with my mobile device. I did it on my phone. So production's not a barrier here. Budget's not a barrier. You just have to know what to do and where to go. And there's plenty of resources out there that you can either do your research online, or you can reach out to somebody like me or Bill and go, okay, so you mentioned that thing. How do you do that? Finding somebody that has had some experience with the Facebook advertising platform will certainly get you a lot further, a lot faster, just because they know the interface.
Sure.
So, like I said, $2 a day. I'm spending maybe 2 to 3 cents per video view so far. I think I spent maybe $5 or $6 since I launched this campaign. I really haven't spent a lot of money. So there are things that you can do on the advertising side. But if you're still kind of afraid of the Facebook advertising interface, which I can totally understand that, but sometimes Facebook changes it on us that are used to it, and we look at it and go, Facebook, what did you just do? What is this that you're doing to my interface?
Yeah.
So we feel the same pain. Don't doubt that for a moment. But okay, if that's still a little daunting to you, there are things that you can do organically that will help to expand that reach. And Bill hit the nail right on the head when he said it is necessary for an organic page that it get other people sharing the content. That is the only way that your organic content gets seen by somebody that's never heard of you before. So things you can do, obviously, engaging content that will get your current fans to actually click the share button and go, oh, wasn't this clever, is something that you need. You can also lean into your employees of your company. So you can start to do employee advocacy type things where maybe if you run a local restaurant, that any of your servers that share content from either Instagram or Facebook or whatever, that they get some kind of little bonus for doing it. There are things that you can do with your employees to get them to talk to their friends and family about the company that they work for. Another thing that you can do is engage with your local influencers. So influencers have an audience of their own that they engage in ways that could very well be relevant to your customer base as well. Now, will you spend money with influencers? You could very well wind up spending money with influencers. Yes, it's not necessarily a free option, but influencer marketing is inherently technically an organic social media option, because what we're hoping that they're doing is that they're creating content on their profiles and sharing it organically and tagging the business, linking to the business, all of those kinds of things. Those are technically outside of the advertising system on that platform. So it is a nexus that helps to boost organic visibility in the channels that you use them in.
So how do you actually find, I mean, sir, we have, some budget. How do we find those influencers and kind of start the ball rolling? Is there particular sites or software or services, or, kind of how does that work?
For companies with limited budget, so if we're talking about local businesses or small businesses or startup businesses, I honestly would rather see you guys just do the research yourself, because every social media channel out there has some sort of search function. Most of them you can either search for topics, you can search for hashtags, you can also browse the connections of certain accounts. So one of the seminars I did, I actually did a search for just books, just the word books in YouTube. And obviously YouTube being a Google-owned business, anytime I start to type anything in the search bar, it will drop down and give me a whole bunch of recommendations. Pay attention to that list. Each option in the suggested search options is a trail that you can go down and research. On top of that, let's say I actually clicked on the search for books and I start looking at particularly channels that talk about books. And I'm looking for a channel that has a lot of subscribers. Well, what do I want to do there? I want to actually click on that channel and start looking at what kind of engagement do the videos have? Who is engaging with those videos? Because one of the influencers that I spotted in YouTube in that search, most of the people commenting on her video were also book people. They also did blogs and video and that kind. So any one influencer could lead you to a whole set of other influencers. So there's that. And all of that's for free. You don't have to pay to do any of that. You just need to take the time to go searching and looking. Same thing with using hashtags in like Twitter or Instagram. Go see what the activity is, who's posting, what are they saying, which hashtags really have a lot of content on them. For Instagram in particular, and actually now Twitter as well, you can create feeds based on those hashtags so that you're constantly being informed. Basically, you can follow a hashtag in Instagram the same way you can follow an account in Instagram. So I happen to like to write about pirates, and so I actually follow a hashtag called pirate ship. So I frequently get served really cool and interesting photos of pirate ships in my personal Instagram feed. But that's ways that you can go find influencers that are a visual and topical match to what you do.
So one thing I actually like to look at, and it does make a difference, is that there may be someone who maybe look like an influencer. They have 100,000 followers or a significant amount, and they're tweeting things or posting things, but it's also about the engagement. When they post something, are they getting the likes and shares, and actually are people commenting on what they're posting? Because I've seen cases where someone looks great, they look like they're an influencer, they have a lot of followers, but when they're the last week or two, every post that they've made, they haven't had anybody who's commented or shared or liked. And so sometimes, it's now, maybe 10 years, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, having 100,000 followers would be great. But nowadays it's a little bit more about engagement. And I guess I'd rather have somebody that has 20,000 followers, and every post or every share that they make has a bunch of comments and likes and shares, rather than having somebody who has, say, 100,000 followers, and when they post, they're not getting any engagement.
Right. Well, and you also want to think about, so Instagram in particular has talked a lot, and they have already started testing versions of the platform where the likes in and of themselves are not publicly visible. Now, the person who created that post can still see who and how many liked any particular thing, but publicly facing, everybody else can't see how many. So to a degree, we can't get entirely bound up in engagement rates like that just because it's not visible. It no longer becomes a metric that's really valid to us, because that bit of social proof, if you can call it that, is likely, at least in Instagram, to go away. However, when an Instagrammer has a really great aesthetic match to my brand, let's say I do really cool handmade canvas backpacks, and I want to engage with influencers that take really beautiful outdoor photos, right?
Sure.
Because it matches the aesthetic. So long as I know that Instagram influencer is doing a good job of making my brand really apparent, I may not worry too terribly much about how many people liked the image. It's more about getting my product and my logo in front of as many people as possible. And again, you have to know what you're trying to accomplish before you start working with an influencer. Don't expect that the influencer is going to tell you what you're going to get out of this. You need to know before you ever reach out to them what it is you need to accomplish out of the engagement.
Yes, exactly. And obviously, there's different ways that they charge, and how, could you explain a little bit as far as, how you would expect to, I guess, pay them based on, setting up a campaign, or how many, not necessarily just that the fact that they went and tweeted it or posted it on Instagram, but would you pay more for somebody who is or that influencer who has taken the time to create the content and make it trackable? Obviously on our end, we like to be able to track things, right?
Right. Well, again, that's going to depend on which channel they're doing influence in. You can't expect click through from Instagram.
Sure.
That's not what Instagram is for. But
Yep.
if they're doing Facebook or Twitter or any of the other channels that you can reasonably expect that there would be click through, then yes, we want to make sure that, honestly, in those sorts of things, I want to make it as easy for the influencer as possible. The links
Sure.
that I give them to share, I'm going to give them already tagged. And just make it perfectly clear. Make sure that you take the entire string and don't cut it off anywhere. But this is the link I want you to use in Facebook. This is the link I want you to use in LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And then, yes, we can track it.
That makes sense. So thanks for joining me this afternoon. And how can we get in touch with you? And if we have questions, comments, want to follow you on social media, how do we get in touch?
Perfect. So if you just want to follow and kind of keep up with any number of things that I might be willing to talk about in social,
Sure.
you can look me up by name. So if you type a search practically anywhere from Michelle Stinson Ross, you're likely going to find me. Just look for my face. It's usually the same picture all across my social profiles. But if you have specific questions, if there's something about either social media marketing or influencer marketing that you need a quick answer to, honestly, email me is the best option. And my email address is Michelle, Michelle, at apogeeresults.com. So Apogee is spelled APOGEE results.com.
Sounds great. Thanks again for joining me, Michelle. And like I said, if you have any social media questions, more influencer marketing questions, feel free to get in touch with Michelle. Thanks again. This has been the Bill Hartzer podcast for Thursday, December 12th, 2019. Thanks again for joining me, Michelle. Thanks.